Hey guys, this is my first video that I'm actually putting out. Just realized that it's not perfect. I'm going to be fixing some of the camera and audio stuff for the League of Legends esports video coming out tomorrow. But go ahead and follow me on Twitter for some live bets and enjoy the video. So the first matchup we're going to be talking about today is the LA Gorillas versus the Toronto Ultra. It is the first matchup of the Minnesota home series on Friday, June 12th. Here we can see the standings. These teams are not very good. I'd say the Gorillas are much worse than the Ultra. They are sitting in last place with 30 CDL points. The Ultra is sitting at 40 CDL points, but in the last few home series that they have played, they have looked much better. Here we can see in the bracket, I did choose them to go 3-1 over the Gorillas. Why is that? We can look at the Gorillas roster. Right now they have Aqua, Decimate, Spart, Vivid, and Blaze T. These are all solid slaying Call of Duty players. How will they fare up against the Toronto Ultra? Who knows? This is not one I'm actually going to be betting on. We can look at CDL Intel's Twitter and see that Classic is out for personal reasons. We don't necessarily know what that means, but we do know that CleanX is currently in his place. Personally, I think it would have been a better choice for them to go with Brack or Looney, but I guess they're giving CleanX a shot. They don't have much time until champs, and they want to get some CDL points and try to climb the standings for better seedings, and we'll see how that goes for them. Now let's look at the bet lines for this game. We have Bovada, Pinnacle, and Betway. Those are the three mains that are going to be looking at for lines. First of all, Bovada typically has better lines than Betway, and they're normally pretty similar. So at this point, I'd probably go with them if you can. Ultra, -1.5. We have +120. It's decent value, but at the end of the day, we haven't seen his Ultra lineup perform yet. So it's going to be hard to say whether they're going to do well against the Gorillas or not. The money line's 190 and +140. At the end of the day, like I showed you on the bracket builder, I could see the Gorillas taking this series with better slaying and hardpoint and domination. We'll have to see how it plays out. The second matchup that we are going to be looking at today is the Atlanta FaZe versus the Seattle Surge. Now, honestly, there's not much to talk about here. The FaZe are going to win this series. Whether it's going to be a 3-0 or a 3-1 is probably what we're looking at here. At the end of the day, it's probably going to be a 3-0. If we look at the bet lines, we have FaZe and Surge right here, -2.5 at -115. Honestly, I think that's pretty decent value for how hard they've been stomping every single team that isn't in the top three, aka anyone that's not Huntsman or Empire. Subliners give them a little bit of trouble, but at the end of the day, the FaZe are very good. However, there is a roster change with Surge that gives me a little bit of hesitation when thinking about making it a 3-0 and maybe they can get a 3-1. As we can see here, this is the Surge roster. They're going to be playing Octane, Proto, Pander, Slacked, and Apathy. If you are a Call of Duty fan and you somehow missed it within the last week because you're living under a rock, the greatest of all time, the GOAT, Damon Karma Barlow, did retire mid-season, mostly because he didn't like the game, and quite obviously, we can take a look at the standings here. The Surge are in 11th place. They have 40 CDL points, pretty much tied with Ultra. They haven't been doing well. They've won all of their games against the Gorillas. They've had very competing performances with other teams throughout the league, but at the end of the day, they haven't been able to capitalize. They were very bad at search and destroy. So that's what makes me think it's probably going to be a 3-0. If you look here at my bracket builder, I have FaZe winning 3-0. They're not good at search and destroy, and FaZe is one of the best slaying teams in the entire league, if not the best slaying team in the entire league. So the third matchup we're going to be talking about today is the Chicago Huntsmen versus the Florida Mutineers. Now, this is going to be a very interesting matchup since Prestini did end up leaving the Florida Mutineers and joining the Chicago Huntsmen, and the Florida Mutineers did win a home series event after Prestini did leave. And the last event, the Seattle home series, Prestini won their first event with the Huntsmen. So how is that going to come into play? It's going to be an interesting matchup. But if we look at the stats, I think, just like me, you'll agree that we're going to have to look at the Huntsmen here as favorites. And if we look at the bet lines, the Huntsmen are for -1.5 at -110. That handicap is ridiculous. I think that the event win a few events ago for the Florida is clouding that line judgment. But if we look at the stats here, it's utterly in favor of the Huntsman. Hardpoint, they're 24-10. S&D, they're 16-8. In domination, they're 13-7. Now you could say, well, most of these stats came from when they played with Gunless, and yes, that is true. However, the first event back, they lost no steam at all and won their first event with Prestini. Now, the FaZe and Empire, were they there? No. So this is going to be a different event. We're going to have to see how they stack up with them. But at the end of the day, Mutineers, they're very bad at domination. And if you don't know how domination works, there's only 3 maps, as you can see here: Gunrunner, Hackney, and St. Petro. Each team vetoes one, and then the third one is the one that gets played. If the Huntsmen have this kind of information, these stats, which they should as a professional team, obvious St. Petro ban for them, as Mutineers are 85% win rate on it. Ban that, and then they have to play one of these two. So third map, probably lock. Then the series is going to be a 3-0 or a 3-1. I'm calling it here. I think they're going to hype it up on the broadcast, but for me personally, I think it's an easy Huntsman dub. So the fourth and final match that we are going to be covering today is the Dallas Empire and the Minnesota Rocker. Now, when we look at the standings, the Minnesota Rocker are in 4th and the Dallas Empire in 3rd. But take note here that in the events played section, the FaZe and Empire have only played in 5, while everybody else except for Ultra, they're at the bottom, have played 6 events, and they're still leading in CDL points. That points to you how strong they are as competitors in the league. And we can also look at the lines for this event. The Empire -1.5 at +100 is an absolute joke. 100% slam. I definitely going to be betting on this. If we look at the stats, the Empire are favored heavily. Even now, if you look at the last 2 to 3 events that the Empire have played, they've performed much better than in the beginning of the year. Shotzi and Illy have absolutely turned it on, and they're fresh rookies new to the Call of Duty scene. Mentored by Crim6 and Clayster, they've gotten much better. Their team play has been insane. Their respawns are better. They've always dominated in S&D. The only area I think that they might get a loss in this series is that might turn it to a 3-1 instead of a 3-0 is S&D, because as you can see here, Empire is going to be seeded better, so they're going to have first and last map pick, and the Rocker are going to have second and fourth map pick. And with that, when we look at the stats here, Arklov peak, pretty good search and destroy for the Rocker, 66% win rate. And as we can see here, for the Empire, they have a 42% win rate, which isn't terrible. It's their worst win rate on search and destroy, but they're typically known as a pretty good search and destroy team. So I think at the end of the day, when you look at Rocker Empire, you see here that Empire, they've played Azir Cave once. That's why it's 0% and they lost. They don't like playing that map. They probably won't play that map because it's not one of the favorites of the Rocker. So that would have to get to a game 4 anyway. That first map pick is going to go for Empire, and they are most likely going to choose Ramaza or Hackney Yard. Maybe they might throw in a St. Petrograd, but they're definitely confident on Hackney Yard by far. And so they're going to take that first game. Second game, maybe Rocker if they pick Arklov, but it's not a sure thing. Domination. So if you're Rocker, you know the stats, you're obviously going to ban Hackney Yard. The Empire are gods at Hackney Yard domination, and not so much on the other two. However, if you're the Empire, you're going to ban out the Gunrunner domination, so that leaves you with St. Petrograd, where they both have a 33% win rate. Slang up in the air. I'm going to take the Empire. Over the last 2 events that they've played, they have absolutely turned it on, even out Slang phase. I don't think the Rocker can stand up to that. If they get to a game 4, I think if the Rocker chooses Azir Cave, they have a chance. But I think a lot of things have to line up for them to actually get to that 4th game. And then 5th game S&D with their map pick, Empire are going to win. So lock it in here. I think having plus value at plus 100, or even if you are on Betway, plus 105 for Empire minus half is a ridiculous line. I'd slam that. The Empire look in form, and I can't wait to see them play FaZe after the FaZe beat the Surge. So it should be a good round. Now, let's look at my bracket builder to round out the video, just to give you a sense of my predictions for the entire event as a whole. So, as we saw, I picked FaZe 3-0 over Surge. That's easy. Empire over the Rocker, like I just explained. And then we have Empire versus FaZe. We saw this matchup before. I think it's going to be a 3-2. It's going to be a heavily interesting series. But Dallas has looked more in form, and FaZe have dropped off in the second half of the season so far. Their raw slaying power has not been enough for them in the last few events. It's been enough for the lower tier teams, but for the top tier teams, their pure slaying is becoming a problem because it seems they're less coordinated on the map. Then we have over here the Gorillas and Ultra. I went over that. Ultra all day. Huntsman, Mutineers, Huntsman all day. Then we have Gorillas versus Mutineers. I think the Gorillas might slip through a respawn, maybe a domination, because the Mutineers aren't too good at domination, but Gorillas aren't winning shit. Then we have Huntsman Ultra, easy Huntsman. I mean, live betting, I'll be on my Twitter, check it out. Possibly, if the Ultra look really good, you might want to take them plus 1.5. They might get an extra, but it's probably not going to happen. FaZe, Rocker. The Rocker are probably going to be total mental boom at this point. They've been so close. They've been in finals this year, but they haven't been able to succeed. Losing to the Empire in the first round, and then having a cupcake layup against the Surge, not going to be great for them. They're going to go against the FaZe and get absolutely outslayed. And then the more interesting part, we finally get to see these three playing against each other later in the season when everyone's caught up. Empire Mutineers are just not good. I don't think they're top tier right now. And then Huntsman versus FaZe. Honestly, I could see it going the way of FaZe, but that's something you're going to have to look out on my Twitter betting, so that's not something you can bet on right now. I think it's going to be very close. And I think fan favorite final, what everyone wants, is Empire versus Huntsman. We'll have to see if it comes true. Storylines both way. If we get FaZe 3-2 over Huntsman, we get a rematch from earlier in the day. Empire and FaZe again for the final, I think would still be very hype. Awesome. I don't see a way that the Mutineers get into the final at all. So that's my bracket, and we'll see how the event goes.